you want to start with donor fatigue or the NCAA sending out memos that they can't really back up? How do you want to start?
Let's start with the NCAA, because I feel like donor fatigue gets to a premise that you and I have had for the last 10 years.
Yes.
Which is the water will always find its level. The market will always find its level. And that's where we get the donor fatigue. But let's start with the NCAA, because the NCAA decided they weren't going to police anything when it came to NIL, because they were scared after what Justice Kavanaugh wrote.
Yeah.
Basically, if I could just sum this up in 10 seconds, which I think I just did.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden they went and they hired a governor from Massachusetts to be the new head of the NCAA. And he thinks he's going to glad hand his way and handshake his way and pat people on the back and get Congress on his side. Good luck. That's awesome. But the NCAA now all of a sudden is going to find religion and be like, hey, we're going to start policing NIL.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, Joe, this wasn't the state. This wasn't your local municipality. This wasn't the NCAA. This was the Supreme Court of these here United States.
Yeah.
Which, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of Kavanaugh's political affiliation, is the rule of this land. So good luck fighting in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And good luck, because you are over forever. You are the Washington Generals, NCAA. You never effing win. You got the worst lawyers ever. Like, sack up. Find somebody who can actually win a case. That's embarrassing.
I want you to use corporate speak. Let's put a pin in that and get back to it. Here's Ross Dellinger. If I can back out of this real quick, as I'm still understanding how to use things here on social media.
You know how to Zoom. I don't.
Yeah, you don't know how to Zoom. I know how to Zoom.
But I was like, I was able to pull it up though.
That's good. This is from Ross Dellinger over at Sports Illustrated. The NCAA strongly clarifies its NIL policy by warning schools that, one, they must follow NCAA rules even if they conflict with state laws. This is happening in Texas, et cetera, California. And two, entities such as school foundations are prohibited from NIL and offering donor incentives for NIL giving. This is a Texas A&M issue where Texas A&M is like, hey, you give X amount, we're doing priority seating, all these types of things. This gets to the donor fatigue aspect of why we're here, but schools are constantly trying to find ways to incentivize people to give money to them. And the NCAA is freaking out once again. So Dellinger follows this up by saying, in response to a growing trend, state laws permitting rule breaking and prohibiting enforcement, NCAA provides its strongest language yet, taking aim at those planning to use fundraising arms at NIL. In a May story, we explored this trend across the SEC. So that's the setup for what's going on, which then gets back to what you were saying in terms of the lawyers and where we're at.
But also, let me make a quick point.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do NILs exist? Because these schools are making billions of dollars off of these athletes.
Yeah.
Billions in television revenue and ticket revenue. They refuse to share that revenue with those athletes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Kavanaugh wrote what he wrote. Under no other system are you allowed to say, we don't pay our employees because that's what we've always done. He straight up in the most plain and boldest of language said, you cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if the next person who challenges this in a court of law will the NCAA, you can come here and I will throw this thing back at you so fast, you won't even know what hit you. You won't even know what the devil's triangle is. You won't even like beer in college the way that I liked beer in college. That's how badly you're going to lose. So the NCAA has protected its cartel by saying we have unpaid labor, and spare me the scholarship nonsense.
Yeah.
They have unpaid labor that they refuse to share their revenue with. So what they've done is they've passed the buck to fans and said, and keep in mind, this was going on before NIL. This was going on with scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Your athletic department, the school does not pay for scholarships.
Yeah.
The fans and the Wolfpack Club, the Rams Club, the Iron Dukes, they pay for scholarships out of their pocket. This is now an extension of that. You're going to pay for the NIL, the fans, the donors, the businessman who's got money, the business who wants to see your school be ultra competitive and win titles
because they got to brag.
You're the ones, not this check from Fox, not this check from ESPN. You can't touch that. And that's the problem with this mousetrap that the NCAA has built. Mm-hmm. It's actually a house of cards. And good for Kavanaugh for calling them out the way that they did. And now I cannot wait. I want the chart. Get me the board. Fool around, find out.
Yeah.
Because all we need now, we need one athlete to be O'Bannon. We need one athlete to be Alston.
I don't think
In
it's
this
going to be the
case-
athletes. It's going to be the schools, because the schools are going to be the one that does it. I think the ship has sailed on the players doing it, because look, man, put yourself back in college. Like we saw this with EA Sports and the college football game.
No, it was O'Bannon after. It was after.
But I'm talking about players in college right now. After having so many ACC kickoffs or talking to players randomly, and all they cared about was they just liked being in the game.
Sure.
Like the onus is on the adults, not the students themselves. I get what you're saying.
Well, I'm just
O'Bannon
saying that
kickstarted
the case would be if a player who is now being paid NIL then gets somehow suspended or whatever by the NCAA, then they sue and say it is my constitutional right to be paid. And this
is what I'm getting at. The schools are going to be the ones that are doing it, and Ross Bjork, who's the AD at Texas A&M, has already set the table for that.
Okay.
All of this is
saying that they can.
Yeah, all of this is a non-story because the NCAA can set a memo all they want. These are guidelines. They're not actually rules yet. A lot of them are guidelines to begin with. Not to get too into the weeds of NCAA compliance. Even I struggle to understand the basics of NCAA compliance.
There's no such thing as NCAA compliance.
Because what makes logical sense to you does not apply to the NCAA.
Fake birds and something else.
And the NCAA rules.
Okay.
It's a state of mind, man. The NCAA rules are a state of mind. And the NCAA can sit here and say, hey, this is a membership institution. You abide by the rules. You make the
run
rules.
By the members.
Run by the members.
Not the president.
Run by the members. Okay, no. If the members want to do what they want to do, they will, because they'll get lawyers. And that's what Ross Bjork was essentially getting at. When he was asked, I forgot who it was that asked him. I think it was from an ESPN reporter. Say, hey, look, with these guidelines, the NCAA memo, like we're going to go with what the state laws tell us. The state laws supersede it. And if you want to challenge that, by all means,
come again.
Let's go to court, which gets back to what you started with. At some point, the NCAA is going to get religion. They always lose. They're not equipped.
They're not going to get religion. Look what they just did.
It's shocking.
They went to get They didn't go get a progressive leader.
Yeah,
they went and got what they thought would be a politician who could backroom them into a better deal and get Congress on their side.
And Congress ain't going to do it because it never
Tommy
holds water.
Tuberville is there.
But Tommy Tuberville is a big barker. He's a carnival barker.
Yeah.
He actually has no traction whatsoever.
No, use your favorite word, because that's what he really is.
What, a grifter?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a total grifter.
Yes.
So I don't take anything that he says seriously. He's a grifter. It gets some headlines, but there's no actual traction. The guy has no influence whatsoever when it comes to these types of things. Because at the end of the day, the states, the representatives, how do you think it's going to play out? When
we've already seen this. We've already seen this in Georgia, where they tried to put in more stringent laws, and the University of Georgia was like,
"The hell you are?"
Excuse me. Kirby Smart was like, "Sir, we are interested in winning more national titles. Exactly. If you're interested in that, then you'll let us do what we want to do."
Exactly. So, because the last thing these representatives want to hear is from big money boosters saying, "I'm sorry, are you keeping us at a competitive disadvantage to Alabama now?" No, sir, we are not going to do this. Oh, we're going to lose recruits to Texas? Under no circumstances is that going to happen. So this gets back to my central point. The NCAA continues to lose. So you can send out all the memos you want, and all the college football writers can be like, oh, the NCAA, blah, blah, whatever. It doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't matter. And at some point, somebody has to just say that quiet part out loud. It does not matter what the NCAA thinks when this matters, because to get back to your point, the Supreme Court neutered them. It's over. So
also, one of the great fallacies of the NCAA is that they have some sort of governing rule over anything in the real world.
They don't.
They have no subpoena power, which of course North Carolina learned the hard way when Robert Quinn turned over his phone, and people are like, "What are you doing? Why?" Well, that's the only way they could get it.
Speaking of North Carolina, as much as we can talk about that, there's a 30 for 30, or if we had more time, an entire podcast series about how the story of North Carolina's scandal. If you just wanted to isolate it to them, cool. I mean, that's been done multiple times.
Sure.
But the real story is how
the real grift
is how North Carolina, and a credit to Bubba Cunningham, their AD, going, wait a minute, we can outlaw you. We have smarter people on our side. We can pay the billable hours. You can't. And you noticed, state got on board. Oh, Braxton Beverly? He's ineligible? Oh, hold up a second. Let's get our lawyers. How did that work out, Joe?
All wins.
All
They
wins,
win.
man.
They lose all the time.
It's all wins. So the schools went like,
and sadly for the NCAA, it's their former lawyers who helped create the rules, then broke off, and Bond, Shunnick, and whatever the other guy's name is. They broke off and now are basically just bilking all of these schools just to kick the NCAA's ass because they know the answers to the test.
So this gets us to donor fatigue. So to get away from this, we know where this is going. NIL and the wild west of the NIL, the market will eventually find its level. And schools are learning the hard way.
Don't tell that to SEC baseball,
dude. Have you seen the post College World Series portal activity?
Yeah, State lost Cannon Peebles to Tennessee.
Wake Forest just lost 2 dudes.
Yeah,
so as
allegedly the 6-figure deals in baseball.
As Wes Rucker, who covers Tennessee, saying like, I'm sorry, this sport is broken, where you're basically being talent evaluators for the big money SEC schools where you can
for
just bounce.
LSU and Tennessee.
Yeah, pretty much.
Arkansas will probably get it. A&M.
Sports broken.
Of course.
Sports broken. But there is a level of market correction. And this is something
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
We're going to get there
We're
soon.
on the way there because Matt Brown wrote about this on 3. We should probably talk to Matt from Extra Points here in the near future. That essentially donors keep getting asked for more and more money. And I think the best quote was, there's two quotes really stuck out to me. The first one was, hey, look, if you're a big money booster and you give $10 million to a school and you get a building out of it, well, your name's on it. The building's there.
Somebody's going to walk by and see your name.
Right.
Or you walk by and impress somebody and say, hey.
If you give $500,000 or whatever it is to make sure the roster's straight, well, one, nobody knows that you did it. Number one. Number two, it might not work out. At least the building's always there. Okay. Like, oh, this roster sucks and I paid for this terrible roster. Suddenly I got issues, right? So that quote was amazing. And then there was one from Maryland's AD who said, I wrote it down because it was too good. He's like, they just moved into a new football facility, Maryland. Okay. And he said, look, wrong timing, because we did the money at the time when this mattered. And he goes, quote, they'd get dressed in a trash can for $25,000. And I'm like, yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. So the whole
I don't care about your slide. I don't care about your barbershop or your bullshit lights.
Graham Neff, the AD at Clemson, put the game out there last year. Remember that video that I highlighted where he's like, hey, look, now more than ever, we need you not to give money for the slides in the pool and in the golf course. We need it for the players.
We need dudes.
And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with the players getting the money rather than it going to a freaking fountain. But there's a market correction coming.
But there is a market correction coming. But there's also, again, we keep finding these workarounds instead of solving the actual germane problem, which is the schools are not sharing the revenue that the players are generating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, people are like, oh, it's amateurism. People are like, oh, it's not supposed to be professionalized. Listen, I'm not the one who turned the scoreboard on.
Yeah.
Okay. Fox is the one who's giving $1 billion annually to 14 Big Ten teams. Okay. That's ridiculous to sit here and say that those schools somehow need another layer of tutors, need another layer of academic advisors, need another layer of how many coaching consultants are there now? I think Alabama's got 50 on staff or something crazy.
There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
We could pay all of those people, but we can't pay the players.
Yeah.
But no. You could pay the players, but it has to come from Dunkin' Donuts. It has to come from somebody on the outside. Why?